Happy Friday. It's SJU. It's Friday.
It is.
Right?
Because no one's here.
Yeah, nobody's here. Literally assembled whomever is in the office to do the show.
Just Earth's mightiest who's here. Like Rebecca Black said, it's Friday. I'm Joe. Billy, Dan, definitely almost misnamed both of you. We're off to a good start. Ryan on the ones and twos in the booth. Part of my plan to just keep him even further from having a camera or a mic, just to spite chat.
You're doing great, Ryan.
Look, there's more job security in what you're doing than being on camera, buddy. All right,
It's true.
We're talking about Joker 2 a little bit. Will there be one? Let's find out. But also, more importantly, like, where's it gonna live? There's a lot of big risks being taken with streaming services, and so we're gonna talk a little bit about sort of the pros and cons of taking it to the theatrical model or taking the risk and making it streaming only. Plus, we're going to do a bunch of fan questions because it's Friday and because I didn't look for any other stories to talk about.
You didn't try at all today.
I mean, I tried a little. I'm pretty happy with story number one.
I'm proud of you, man.
I'm pretty happy with story number one.
I know
Plus,
it's a slow day when you get the text from Joe. It's just like, is there anything you want to talk about today?
it's a very chill day. They like the chill days.
It's post-Halloween.
Look, it's post-Halloween. Look, today is one of those days where, guys, I have your chat open, so I'll probably at some point today just start talking to you guys. See, look, right there.
Oh, that's
Man,
neat.
frick you, Joe. Off to a good start. Thank you. Okay,
Have
closing
they found
chat.
a way around cussing at us now?
Yes, they have.
It's like when you had Napster and you had to like spell it like Lincoln, like President Lincoln Park to
Joe
find the
Starr
songs.
is a talentless birch. Okay, so.
Didn't you meet a birch?
I did. I met a birch at New York Comic Con. It was great. Oh, God. Let's jump into this. All the newcomers are like, I already hate this.
Why are you guys laughing and having fun?
Why are you guys laughing and having... Because we do. This thing's ridiculous, and we have to laugh at it.
Yeah.
Movie number one, segment number one. Also, I've become Roth. I have, like, my apothecary
I know, you've got
of drinks in front of me. They're pretty normal, though. It's just coffee and a
Your
sparkle water.
smorgasbord of liquid.
No foot line.
Yeah, no foot wine for Joe, not yet. Movie studios are producing more films for streaming. This is Viva Variety. So as the streaming wars continue, major studios are making more and more movies for streaming sites rather than for theaters. HBO Max is also expected to lean very heavily on Warner Brothers to supply it with exclusive content. As part of the launch announcements, they talked about the subscription service, hoping that the studio will provide it with 8 to 10 movies. That's a number that could ramp up over time. And these aren't like small sort of... not to throw shade because I love the Christmas Prince, but not like, low level, like micro budget, like, stuff like the Christmas Prince. They're looking at Berlanti, they're looking at J.J. Abrams for big, like tentpole sized movies that could rival theatrical releases. They talked about the possibility of DC movies being released exclusively to streaming. So, sort of combined with that and Todd Phillips suddenly changing his tune and saying after $1 billion later being like, oh yeah, Joaquin and I talked about a possible sequel to Joker 2 all the time, like every day. It's all we ever talked about. It sort of begs the question, like, is there a risk worth taking in, do you get that like instant gratification of the box office for a Joker 2, or do you make it the reason to keep people invested in HBO Max?
I think they'd be dumb. Let's take Joker 2 because it's on the thumbnail.
We got to deliver. We got to deliver.
Let's take Joker 2 first.
Hey, you want to take Joker 2 out of this title? No one's going to watch it, man.
Exactly.
Everything is called Joker on this show from now on.
Joker Kennedy, Kathleen, as I call her, Kathleen Batman Joker Kennedy.
Look, I'm looking at the numbers on the episode. We might have to do it.
No.
Last Jedi producer, Kathleen Joker Batman Kennedy.
Joker 2, for example. I watched the investor presentation that was their unveiling of everything, and they're starting with 34 million subscribers that have HBO. Like this is the corporate thing. It's just like they want to get to 50 million subscribers in 5 years, which means essentially they want to not lose any of the 34 million current subscribers and pick up 16 million subscribers over 5 years. You're going to have to be very aggressive to do that. I mean, again, this was not a public thing necessarily, although they were live streaming it. This was for investors. Like, this is what they're promising the people that are fronting the $5 billion investment that they're making. So you are going to have to make. We see Netflix doing this with not just buying things like Cloverfield that studios are looking to offload, but bankrolling things like Michael Bay movies and Martin Scorsese films. Like, that's their play.
Yeah, they're actually kind of trying to change the perception of, well, this movie's going to streaming.
But I do think you can't just throw to do Joker 2 specifically would be a very desperate move because you're talking about a movie that is going to draw in hundreds of millions of dollars in profit, and that's a return. I don't care how many subscribers you get to HBO Max off of it. I don't think you can turn down that kind of return. So I think that's the calculus you have to do. Is the whatever profit that we project more valuable than however many subscribers we might get from it? Joker 2, I don't think that would be a good move, but at the same time, if they're not picking up the numbers they need, you might see a Hail Mary from some of these services to just say, like, okay, well, we gotta juice these numbers, so we're gonna throw something.
It doesn't
big.
seem like they're doing the Snyder Cut, so Joker 2.
It doesn't.
Honestly, that's as much as I'm just like roll my eyes at the Snyder Cut. It seems like an easy layup to just be like, here's a rough cut of what we had exclusive to
Honestly,
our service.
I mean, that would be huge.
Doctor Who fans freak out because someone drew storyboards to an old episode that only has VO left. I honestly think people would be like, yeah, I'm in. Just show me animatics.
When you literally just have to put it on your service. At this point, it's not where you have to give it a theatrical release, and it's just like, and it doesn't seem like Zack Snyder has any objections to it. I mean, I doubt it. The videos that people capture of him signing things in line at conventions where they shout questions at him about it, he doesn't appear. It seems like an easy win, but I also get the fact that it's probably a work in progress print. I don't know. It's not. It's not a finished movie.
It's not.
But I still think
the kind of wives' tale of this, the whole like legend status, just it gets even weirder because I don't know if you guys saw like the other day, like Junkie XL was like, oh yeah, like my score for it is like finished, and the score usually comes fairly later on in the process of a film, so it's like I'm with you. I don't think it's like done, but it's probably enough to at least be an interesting exercise. And
Jason Momoa said he saw it.
He said it was sick. That's a direct quote. Jason Momoa said it was, quote,
at this point,
sick.
Why would you not want to, like, as much as I'm just like, it doesn't exist in the way that I think a lot of, like, very hardcore fans think it does, but there's certainly a cut. Why would you not want to see it just out of morbid curiosity, if anything?
Yeah. But back to the thumbnail.
The thumbnail at hand.
Should we put Snyder Cut in the thumbnail? I think we talked about it and we didn't want to do that.
Probably. Well, you're my Jiminy Cricket with these things sometimes because I want to put Snyder Cut in every thumbnail, and you don't let me, and I appreciate that about you, Dan.
I discourage it. I do. I mean, if it were up to me, we'd have 5,000 viewers a day as we talk about, like, Sidney Lumet. So that's definitely.
I understand.
The half measures are good.
Well, yeah, to get back to the thumbnail at hand, I think there is something to say for. They are starting to ramp up. Your Netflix with Martin Scorsese. Disney Plus isn't like knocking it out of the park feature-wise out the gate for exclusive stuff. The Lady and the Tramp movie is what it is.
Oh, the Anna Kendrick Christmas is top of my list.
They're also extending the Star Wars universe. They're extending the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Right. They're exclusive. So they're doing their own version of this and making exclusive in-universe canonical content.
Yeah, sure. I don't even really consider those TV things. Like, we've always called MCU Marvel the TV series, movie the TV show or something anyway, so I just see it as that.
Yeah.
But then, you also have, Scorsese at Netflix. A24 has a deal to produce new films specifically for Netflix. So while I agree, there's that push-pull of, do we want a few $100 million in profit, or do we want that big, like, Q2 push to get I got a bell ring for Q2. It startled me because I didn't realize you took the bell to the booth.
Yeah, I thought there was a ghost.
Ghost bell. I don't know, Billy. What is your thoughts on profit versus subscriber gain and name recognition? And don't get too meta with YouTube channels.
Sure. Well, you brought up an interesting point, because I do think we're getting some prestige films that are coming out on these streaming services. The Irishman being probably the most notable, at least this year. But there still is deep down that stigma of, if it sucks and it's a tentpole, dump it. Jungle Book, Cloverfield. For a long time, we all thought New Mutants, and I kind of still do, think it'll be dumped onto a streaming service. So until one of them just takes the big swing and says, Ant-Man 3, we're making it, and it's gonna just be Disney Plus. It's not until one of the big tent poles comes around and says we're really investing. I don't think Warner Brothers will be the first to do it in terms of like one of their pre-existing IPs. So in terms of talking about the thumbnail, I don't think a Joker 2 should happen ever. The way I saw that movie, I don't even think a Batman grows up in that world. I just don't.
I agree. It's like a one-off. It's like
right.
I was gonna make you guys movie fight, but geez.
No, I just don't. I mean, and that's the end of round 2. Batman is supposed to be Bruce is a super happy kid that a tragedy happens and then he turns into Batman. This is a kid he's letting adults put fingers in his mouth. Like he's gone by this point.
The Joker is now my new Masked Singer, because I still haven't seen it, and anytime I hear a new piece of information, I'm like, what?
It's true.
I just don't think, I don't want to see a Joker 2, but if they inevitably make one, I just don't think, I think they'd be too nervous to drop a $1 billion movie potentially on streaming. I just don't think so.
But they have promised their investors, or at least they have projected and said that their plan is to have $1 billion in profit from this streaming service by 2025. So if that's the play, I think it's like a waiting game. It's like It's like the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like they're all like, like Netflix kind of twitched their trigger finger with all the Michael Bay stuff, but like I feel like that's going to be the thing, is like, when do they take what would be like a May 5th summer blockbuster opening film, and one of these services is just like streaming only, and then I think once one of them does it, then it becomes this like a house of cards.
Yep, 100%. Agree.
I think it'll be like a real, to use a wrestling term, like crappy Monday Night Wars move, where it's like someone's going to have a major opening weekend and another service is going to just going to undercut it with being like, you know what, cool, Snyder Cut. Yeah, here it is. Stay home, watch Snyder Cut. I don't know if it's going to be Joker 2. I think the big move for HBO Max is going to be one of two things. I think it's either going to be a mid-level version of a real, like, multiverse Crisis on Infinite Earths, where they get at least some B and C characters from movies that have released on the big screen to interact with the Berlantiverse, and they'll do like some kind of special. Or I think it will finally be just a straight up Batman TV show with like a Falcon Winter Soldier kind of budget. But I think that's what they'll do. They'll finally do like their 6-episode.
No, they're so weird about Batman, and I don't see any signs of them loosening the grip.
Not even with this, do you think?
I don't. I truly don't. I think if Pattinson's Batman also is a swing and a miss, maybe they'll finally reevaluate. But I still think Batman is another one. What I hope that they don't bank on is like, well, that Booster Gold movie that Zach Stentz wrote and it's just been sitting around and no one's made it. Perfect for streaming. I don't disagree, but that's also not going to get you to like.
It's not going to get you those 16 million.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
that's why
that's their goal. What is going to get us to 50 million subscribers and $1 billion in 5 years?
Well, there's a perception game to play too, right? You play like a big card first, and then rising tide lifts all boats. Like if you lead with a Joker 2 or a Batman show or like a Teen Titans movie or something like really big and splashy, then Booster Gold, Blue Beetle. I'm running out of DC characters.
But it's fun to watch you try.
Demon Knights, Edigan.
The whole dark Justice League Dark,
Swamp Thing version 8.6, whatever. Like, those look cooler by comparison, because then they don't look like, oh, they're just throwing crap at a wall. They're like, oh, this is what they're following up.
But also, like, I don't have the numbers. I actually have no idea. But it's like clearly like
only one of us here does.
The Titans show, the Swamp Thing show, was not enough to move a needle for a DC streaming service as it is. So like, I just don't see, as much as I want them, I don't see those lower tier. It's like, if you're going to use DC specifically as an in, it almost has to be like a Man of Steel 2 or a Joker to even close move the needle. But that's why, like, I keep going back. I'm like, the easiest layup is just a Snyder cut. You already have most of it done.
And perhaps this is unfair, but I have a sneaking suspicion, having lived in this Snyder Cut world for 2 years now, that 60% of the people who are baying at the moon for the Snyder Cut when it came out would just pirate it. I don't know. I just get the feeling that like a lot of people would have spent 2 years asking for the Snyder Cut, and then it comes out and they're like, Pirate Bay. Like, no, that's not how it works. But I don't know. Maybe that's unfair. I have a hunch.
I just want the mustache cut. Like, as I don't care about the Snyder.
I want the Henry Cavill mustache cut.
Yes. Yeah, mustache cut is what I would.
What if they released the Snyder Cut on the service and then tandem with it, kind of like the Apocalypse Now documentary? They had a whole documentary start to finish of the Justice League movie. Would that move your needle a little bit more?
Yeah,
that to me is more interesting than actually seeing the cut.
Yeah,
it's just everything around this movie is so bonkers.
Yeah, I think that would actually be really cool too. I think there's you said something interesting, because I think there's a perception problem they still need to deal with too, because a few minutes ago you were like, if it's when Ant-Man 3 drops, then that's when.
That's my prediction,
Ant-Man
by the way.
is a Swamp Thing tier character, but the perception problem that they have is you can look at all the Ant-Man level characters in DC and be like, well, that won't move the needle. But like, Disney has done a good enough job to be like, you guys like Ant-Man, right? That you would be like, oh snap, Ant-Man 3
the difference
on Disney
is,
Plus.
Had
like,
Ant-Man debuted in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., no one, sorry, I like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it wouldn't be a character that we think of in those ways. It was because it was part of the cinematic universe. And even then, the Ant-Man movies, like, they do fine. They do, but they're certainly not going to be up there with your like, they're not going to gross $1 billion. So that's why I still think Ant-Man's, like, it's enough of a draw to be like, that's cool, they're doing Ant-Man 3, but also it's not going to, like, you're not going to put Captain Marvel 2 exclusively on Disney Plus. It's $1 billion thing. So I think it's finding that franchise that makes sense. I'm calling my shot. I think Ant-Man 3 is the first major tentpole that becomes streaming exclusive.
Dan, any shots to call?
I ran out of thoughts like 10 minutes ago.
It's all good. Then I tell you what, this is the best play. Let's talk little Galaxy Quest.
Yeah.
And then let's take the sucker off the rails, because this train has been going in the right direction for too long.
I've been looking at those rails and saying, why are we still on?
Why are we doing this? Guys, hey, thanks so much.
It's a daily. We have to do a show every day. Sometimes Halloween was yesterday, and
sometimes Halloween was yesterday.
That sounds like a weird Bjork lyric. Sometimes Halloween was yesterday.
Can I just say I went and saw Halloween, the original, at the ArcLight last night? Let's here. All right, I'm taking us off. We're off the road. We're off road now. I hit the Apple box. This is a sinking chair now. It's all crazy. I went and saw Halloween at the ArcLight last night. And it was great. I'd never seen it on a big screen before, which is great. But I have to say, this is one of the times when living in Los Angeles kind of annoys me. I think that like 25% of the audience came to laugh at it.
Oh.
It was like every time it would cut to Michael Myers in the beginning of the movie, there was like 20% of the audience was like, ah! It's like, why? Because he's a dude and yeah. But it's great to see
because I feel like they're just like, I know what this character is.
Yeah, but like after 20 minutes, it's like they're just laughing every time he shows up. I'm like, it's not funny. That's not like there were big kills and people just like laughing. And I'm like, that's not funny.
That's so weird.
Stop it. That's not funny.
That's not cool.
Were there cheers for some of like the iconic moments? Or
No.
No?
There was like clapping for the credits.
Okay.
And then no.
That's a weird audience.
It was a weird audience. I loved seeing it, and there was like a lot of the audience was there to have fun. But I don't know. I thought that there were some real LA hipsters in there that just came to have a good time at the expense of a classic movie. F off.
You know who's not like that?
Who?
Our audience.
Yes.
Hey guys. Thank you for being here. I know we're a little punch drunk this morning, but I say with all sincerity, thank you for being here. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for doing whatever myriad of steps YouTube now requires you to do to make sure that our video appears like somewhere in your vicinity, hitting bells, going through pipes, holding feathers, wearing a Tanuki suit.
Flying to Estonia.
Yeah, flying
to see our Terminator Dark Fate review, apparently.
We got a
work in progress.
Yeah, work in progress. Someone in Estonia is very frustrated with our Terminator Dark Fate review. But honestly, thank you guys so much for hitting whatever bells and whistles. Remember the old Fisher Price little things that were in the doctor's office when you're a little kid, where you got the little bead and it goes through all the little. Yeah. Thank you for doing all of that so that you can watch this. We really appreciate it. We also really appreciate how much support you guys have been giving Never Surrender, our Galaxy Quest documentary. Did you guys know we made a Galaxy Quest documentary? Because we did, and
I pirated it in a closet to dance.
That's true. Billy did actually have to pirate it.
Okay, can we tell this story?
Sure.
This is how we're going to talk about Galaxy Quest today. So first of all, before we get into this story, and then we've got a few fan call-outs, people that have been tweeting tickets. It's screening on November 26th in the U.S. Via Fathom Events.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Fathom. First question, I know that I promise you it's already happening. And that, we don't have like concrete plans to distribute internationally yet. This is step one. We got to knock step one out of the park, and then hopefully step two is question mark, and then step three is international.
Just not ready to talk about.
Yeah, but you know. Those are all well and good, but we got to knock this one out of the park. It's got to be successful. So thank you guys for pushing it as hard as you are to get it there. We really appreciate it. The bigger we can blow it up, the wider of a net we can cast so that you guys internationally can all see it. So let's share a Galaxy Quest story today, and then we'll do some fan call-outs.
Yeah.
Billy?
This was New York Comic-Con. This was earlier this month. This thing was just being finished. The final touches for the screening for our panel. Thank you to those of you who came out. Yeah. And it was while I was on the plane. So I land New York time around 8 o'clock, 8:30. The file is very big, ProRes, which means it's full, high definition. It was about 180 gigabytes, which is pretty big.
The best for our premiere.
Yep.
And of course, in my infinite wisdom, I thought, I'll just download this on my hotel internet. What could possibly go wrong? So I connected to the Wi-Fi, and it said approximately 7 days to finish. So I called our supervising producer, Max, and after I confirmed that ReadPop would not push back New York Comic Con a week for this to download, I hopped into a cab. It is now probably close to 10:30, 11. I went to the New York Fandom office. No one was there. It's on top of a karaoke bar. Oh. So someone was singing Sheryl Crow at the top of her. It was.
Was it If It Makes You Happy?
All I wanna do is have some, which is a great Friday night song.
That's for somebody that's out to have fun. If they're singing If It Makes You Happy, they're going through.
Oh wow, yeah.
Something's happening there. But it was like sushi / karaoke there at the Fandom offices. It's like a temp space for them. I went in there. I started rifling through people's stuff, looking for a hardline connection.
Never been to this office before.
Never been in this office before. I just got the entry code from someone in that office. Literally, there's security camera footage of me somewhere just going through people's stuff. No one had a hard line. And then I just figured, I was like, well, there's internet in here. It's got to be somewhere. Right. So I found a broom closet. It was a little stuck. It was an older New York building. So I pushed the door, and then I finally just pulled it.
I like your word for locked. It was a little stuck. The bank vault was a little stuck, officer. So I put on some C4 and I blew the door.
I found the router. It was mounted above all the cleaning supplies. I got a little boost from a chair. I started pulling out all the wires, hooked up to my laptop. It's now about midnight. Took about 25 minutes to download. The next day, I got it all. I had a tech rehearsal at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. the next morning. I was talking to someone at the New York office. I was like, oh, by the way, if there's security camera footage of someone going through, don't worry, it was just me. And she's like, where's the router? We've been looking for the router forever. It's like, oh, it's in your cleaning closet. She's like, how'd you get in the cleaning closet? I was like, I was a little jammed. Yeah, you just have to wiggle it. She's like, no, it's locked. So I Hulk smashed, broke all their stuff, rifled through it. But we got to screen it.
I call this the first real moment of marriage since we were merged with Fandom. Like, that was the first real interaction of substance, was Screen Junkies just barreling into their office.
But when someone asks, like, what does a producer do? How do you do a producer? It's like you figure out at midnight how to, at an office that you don't work at, how to download a file, because it just has to happen. That's what you do.
I had to break into the internet closet. Galaxy Quest wouldn't go on that.
So I go, and it's locked.
I was able to break in, and the security guard was fine. But the cleaning lady and her family was a different story altogether.
I had to beat them to death with the shoes of the woman singing Sheryl Crow. I love
Wayne's
that
World
tale.
2 reference for our fans.
Solid Wayne's World. Wayne's World 2 is a great movie.
It's one of the few comedy sequels that actually works, because it's very, very difficult to do a comedy sequel.
And I like both of those movies because they both feel very different in tone in a way. Like the comedy is like just skews and slightly, but they both work together really well. I had not seen The Graduate before I saw Wayne's World 2.
Oh, okay.
And then I saw Wayne's World. Yeah, that tracks. That 100% tracks.
I don't know if I had either, actually, the first time I saw it.
Yeah. But I'd always known, like, people were like, yeah, the end of Wayne's World 2 is a Graduate parody. And I was like, cool, that makes it funny. Like, keep that in mind. That's fun. But then when I finally saw The Graduate, I was like, oh, wow. Like, they shot for shot, like, do The Graduate for, like, 40 minutes.
It's a little more spoofy. Wayne's World 2. It's like a Jurassic Park thing in there.
Yeah.
But then the Charlton Heston
Have you seen This Boy?
It's brilliant.
Oh, God.
Gordon Street.
Can we get a better actor? I know it's a small part. Oh, God. I love that movie. Go see Wayne's World 2. That's the moral of the story. Got a fan call out. Hey, Izzy. Izzy tweeted us, I got my tickets for #NeverSurrender. I love watching SJU, and I dig Fandom Uncovered, so I'm really looking forward to this. Can I get your thoughts on the current state of the Muppets? Yes, you can, Izzy. And also, we loved this question because it sounded so formal. Current state of the Muppets. Cigarette?
Well, we've very vigorously established a policy of keeping the Muppets happy and keeping our current policies with the Muppets healthy and in line with
ultimately
50 years of Muppet foreign policy.
Ultimately, Kermit the Frog and I, a great relationship.
Kermit, I saw in a TV ad. Doesn't sound like Kermit.
No?
Don't like it.
New Kermit voice bugging you?
I don't know.
I mean,
we know, but the newer old Kermit.
Very sad news, Billy. Oh my God!
I'm about to ruin your life.
We should just change the thumbnail to Billy learns about a very hard loss. A very special episode.
Whoever the newest Kermit is, I understand that there's subtle changes over time.
Sure, yeah.
But it didn't sound like, because I think Frank Oz is still doing a lot of the characters, so they sound the same. But
you know what's interesting to me is that the guy, we interviewed him a few weeks back when we went and did we visited the studio where they do the new Muppet Babies cartoon, and that guy sounds solid.
Whoever I don't know if they like do like a Bozo the Clown thing, or like when they have a Muppet TV commercial, they're like, give it to
maybe, I don't know,
Kermit number 2. But whoever TV commercial Kermit is sounded a little non-Kermit like.
Is it like the KFC Colonel where they just switch out the Kermit every 6 months or so?
Yeah. I don't know. The Muppets, I felt like were at the beginning of the decade. We're riding high, but then I feel like we might be in a bit of a Muppet Valley.
I don't know.
Muppet Valley.
It's very frustrating. I don't know why Muppets is hard to crack right now. I feel like with nostalgia being what it is, they should be able to really knock it out of the park. But I feel like any Muppet project they do, outside of the Jason Sudeikis, I almost said the Jason Statham, which I'd also watch that Muppet movie. But outside that Jason Sudeikis,
Jason Segel.
Segel.
Jason Segel.
I'm just saying it doesn't matter anyway. Yeah.
Jason S.
Jason S. One of the Jasons. Gareth Edwards and Gareth Phillips.
Gareth E.
Gareth Keenan directed. Outside of that one, like, because then the sequel I don't think
didn't do as well.
Didn't do as well. They did the Office style series that people didn't really enjoy.
Well, they've been ever since they were bought and are part of a corporation. As happens, it's like they're schizophrenic. They want to appeal to adults, but they also feel the pressure to be a 100% wholesome family franchise. And so you get this weird kind of hybrid thing. And sometimes I thought the Muppets, the 2011 movie, I think, was a great combination of both. I thought it rode that line very well, but now they're still like, where do we go?
Yeah, it's frustrating. I like those Muppets.
I've never seen a single live action Muppet anything.
Really?
Ever.
All right, Billy, first of all, you have got to see like Muppet Movie and Great Muppet Caper
movies
and Muppet
fantastic.
Here's what I worry about. Because you and I have never actually had a chance to have a real conversation about this, but here's the thing.
We're doing it now.
Yeah, let's have the real conversation.
Thank you, Izzy.
There's a lot of childhood staples, classics. I just missed for whatever reason, this, that, the other. As I start to see them later on in life, I'm like, E.T., it's not for me. Like, Goonies, not for me. Muppets, I'm worried will be in the same.
The Muppet movie is like a hybrid. It was like the Lego movie / Deadpool of its time.
It's a legitimately good film.
It's like people know what movie they're in. It may be a little weird because it's very much, a lot of it's based on like 70s celebrities. So there are definitely some people that pop up and you're like, who is that person? But then like literally like Richard Pryor is in it. Like I think Bob Hope is in it. You know, like and it's every minute or 2 minutes like a new huge celebrity. It's the first Muppet movie. But it's very self-aware. It knows what it is. I do think it still is something that you can enjoy today. And then as you go along, it gets a little bit less that. So like if you watched like Muppet Christmas Carol, which a lot of people my age love because they saw it when they were kids, maybe you wouldn't like, you may be like, it's just a Christmas Carol. But I think the first few Muppet movies in the 70s and 80s hold up. And I think you could still watch it because they know what they are. Yes, kids like them, but they're also very much, like there's some very clever jokes and winks.
The first Muppet movie especially was still very much, because the Muppet Show was for adults. Like that was a primetime TV show. And so I think people's expectations when that movie came out was this was not for kids.
Right.
So even if you remove sort of the Muppetness of it all, it's still just a very like fun, like positive, optimistic movie about following your dreams that just has like really good music in it. And then when you add on top of that, like it's like the core Henson team, like just like firing on all cylinders. It's really, really good. I think you'd actually really like the Muppet movie a lot.
And it's literally them being aware that they're making a movie.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I would say I'm interested. Maybe we'll revisit this.
Yeah,
so watch the Muppet movie, the first one, and tell me what you think.
All right.
But yeah, that's the current state. Henson Studios is doing some really cool stuff. Like the new Dark Crystal series is awesome. Don't worry if you've never seen the original movie. Don't worry about it. Just watch this series. It's really, really cool. They're doing some really cool stuff. No. It's
not you. The first.
Dark Crystal.
Dark Crystal.
I love
to me.
No. To me as well. I love the first Dark Crystal movie. I have never stayed awake through all of it once. I don't know how I'm married, because I remember early on in Torlin and I's relationship, we were sitting in her college dorm watching Dark Crystal, and I passed out. And for some reason, we stayed together, because that was not a smart thing to do in front of my Dark Crystal super fan girlfriend at the time.
Yeah, I'd never seen that one. Or I tried to watch Labyrinth, and I was like, this is boring.
Oh, man, if you can't get through Labyrinth,
you cannot get through Dark Crystal, man. Dark Crystal is like, Dark Crystal, that's like if you were like, Lord of the Rings is pretty dull. What's this Silmarillion all about? Like, I love it, but yeah, it's like loving the dictionary in a lot of ways. But
learn words, Joe.
that's our State of the Muppets conversation. Thanks for bringing that up.
The TV show, you think, is more accessible, perhaps?
Oh, the TV show is honestly awesome. It's approached with a modern sensibility. What's his name? Leterrier, the guy that did the Ed Norton Hulk. Louis Leterrier directed the whole thing, and in the making of it's really kind of eye-opening because they had some of their first meetings once they decided it's all puppets or nothing. They're like, well, here's how we would typically shoot something like that, and he was like, no. He completely took the snow globe and shook it and was like, we got to figure out how we can move 2 and 3 cameras around and actually move around the characters. And so it moves really well and it's really beautiful. And I really like it.
Sounds like the good version of the dynamic he had with Edward Norton on the Incredible Hulk movie, where he wanted to shoot something a certain way and Edward Norton was like, no.
Except in this, but it went good this time. It went good. Yeah, everyone was like, yeah. No, we're
the Nortonian method.
No. But guys. Take a picture with your Galaxy Quest documentary ticket. Tweet at the Screen Junkies Twitter account with it, but also use that hashtag Never Surrender. That's how we're looking for these. That's how we're finding them. We'll make sure to call you out on the show. If you got something you want us to talk about or anything like that, we'll do it. We'll talk Muppets.
Something.
Yeah, please.
Why did we burn that assassin story earlier this week?
We can skip fan questions and do the poop story you sent me.
What was the poop story?
You said I like that you sent me. You sent me so many stories.
We
about
have a
poop.
Slack channel about SJU, and it's just thumbnail suggestions, titles, and every couple days I'll just be like, "Here's a weird poop story I found on the internet," and you never take my poop suggestions.
If any fans have sat through this all the way, we at least deserve to answer some of their questions. So thank you for this.
No, you're right.
I'll tweet the poop story later.
You are absolutely right.
It's the poop museum. Sorry, go ahead.
Jason Georges asks, in honor of the Terminator reboot, what is your favorite Big Jim Cameron movie? I think I just have to go T2. I don't know if that's a basic B answer. But
I
love Terminator 2, man. It's
almost exclusively great movies, but Terminator 2 is my favorite.
Yeah,
followed by Aliens.
Yeah,
I like Titanic.
I like Titanic. I think Titanic. Is one scene where I'm like, what are you doing? And that's where Billy Zane starts shooting in slow motion Terminator style. I'm like, they're gonna drown in 20 minutes. What are you shooting at him for?
That's how broken his pride was, Billy. That's what they're trying to show you.
Although I do love I have a child. I have a child. When I'm at Disneyland at the end of the night and you're trying to get on the tram.
Yeah.
I have a child.
This kid's where's my parents?
True Lies has gotten lost in the shuffle because they won't put it out on any HD formats.
And he keeps saying I'm working on it. Don't worry. It's come on, man. Blu-ray's almost over now.
Yeah, exactly. Do it. Do it now.
Do it now. True Lies is a fantastic movie. You know what? That's still lost in the shuffle. I forget about it a lot, which is not
also
fair.
Lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, The Abyss. The Abyss is. It's been so long that I don't think I can make a qualified statement on The Abyss.
Yeah.
I just remember being very weird and inaccessible, but I was also little and when does Superman punch things? I was a pretty boring.
I mean, True Lies. I can't even remember a lot of it because I refuse to watch that horrible DVD. It's unwatchable.
I still have it.
I still have it.
It's still framed.
Yeah, it's so bad.
Letterboxd, but it's still framed for 4:3, so it's like watching it on a smaller television inside your television. I mean, I would get the better version, but it doesn't. As I think, it doesn't exist.
I gotta go T2. Every time I watch Terminator 2, I find there's a 5-minute stretch where I'm like, have I never seen this part before? It always feels that there's something fresh about Terminator 2. I think the last time I watched it, there's just some, and I know I've seen it, but there's just something about that movie where I'm like, the police raid on Cyberdyne when he's launching the gas cans. I was like, I know I've seen this, but it feels really new for whatever reason.
One of the few extended cuts that I'll choose that over theatrical.
What else in the extended cut?
It's the stuff with I like the stuff where Dyson explains to his wife what he's doing.
Yeah.
There's also I love the Kyle dream nightmare that she has.
I remember this now. Yeah,
they also have the great scene.
You mean the main character of the Terminator?
Yeah.
sorry.
They did with Linda Hamilton's twin.
Yeah.
The mirror scene where they just literally had her twin sister and an Arnold like animatronic. Like they just did a mirror scene like that, cheap and easy. But there's also like cool little things like. The T-1000 is like impersonating Sarah, and the way that I remember just like there's a thing where like they can tell them apart because it's damaged and it's like it's molding with the floor.
Yeah.
And it's like it starts malfunctioning and like it touches something and it like
his arm
uncontrollably
gets stuck.
starts to start.
It's
It's
like,
just like little things like that I like, and oh how I wish they had used that deleted ending. That's not even in the extended cut where it's the future, and she's
coda?
old and everything's fine. But Billy,
Barf.
think of what it would have saved us.
That's true.
Think of what it would have saved us, Billy.
It's true.
I've never even seen that.
It's very strange. It's like she's now like a 80-year-old woman, and John's a senator. She's like, John fought the war in a different way, and it shows him in that park that was supposed to blow up, but he's pushing his daughter on a swing, and I think he's like wearing a stupid future tie. Like it looks really bad.
It's not perfect, but it's more like what.
Also, do not make fun of any future weird 80s retro vision of James Cameron or Ridley. Like that's my jam. That's what the future needed to look like.
It's on YouTube. They call it the future coda. That's and it's
Okay.
like I remember on the old DVDs you could like push like a sequence of like Judgment Day numbers and it was like an Easter egg.
Huh.
Yeah. But
I had no idea that existed. That's weird.
But you're right.
Terminator 2. And Terminator, there's like I really like that movie too. It doesn't have like the scale and like the
Terminator 1?
Terminator 2. Yeah, but
I prefer Terminator 1 to 2 actually.
Really?
As I get older, I think I just love the intensity and like immediacy of Terminator 1 and it's very personal, whereas Terminator 2 I love Terminator 2, but it feels a little bit more, it's bigger, the stakes are bigger, everything's bigger, but there's something very visceral and slashery and just like he's coming right this minute for you from the first one that I really like.
They're both great movies. They're like here, but the thing that puts T2 up for me is it's not the fault of the movie, but the effects hold up so much better.
Sure, yeah,
like Terminator, I can't help. There's some things that like while it's so awesome that they were able to do with the limitations, budget and technological at the time, it just doesn't quite age as well. That's what puts T2 just up here for me, is that it still holds up so well visually. But yeah, they're both great.
Well, Guy Incognito asks, in dedication to love. Wow. Okay, Guy. What's your favorite movies? He feels like the only regular panelist answers that he already knows are Dan's, which is Jaws, and mine, which he says, isn't it either Batman Returns or Blues Brothers? No, they're up there. Billy, what's your favorite?
My all-time.
What's your all-timer?
All-timer. It's the movie I've hands down seen the most in my life is Apollo 13.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is a good movie. I just didn't expect that one.
Apollo 13 is my all-time favorite movie.
Talk on it for a minute.
Right under it, just by a hair, is Saturday Night Fever. My all-time favorite
Didn't expect
movies.
either of those from you. What is it about Apollo 13?
I think Apollo 13, it's just, first of all, the story just in itself is amazing. And if you listen to the commentary track with Jim Lovell, who I think has since passed, but he did it, and he's basically, that's like, when you think about like history movies, and they change a lot, like Apollo 13 is as close as it gets. There's one scene that he refutes happened, and there's part of me that thinks it absolutely happened, but he just would.
Is it where they're all screaming at each other?
Yes.
It's getting real dark up here. Let's do some reels.
He said that
Houston, we have a party.
He said that the scene where they like Jack and Fred kind of get into it a little bit, he was like, that never happened. Like,
Are we on Vox?
Yeah, I absolutely think some version of that happened. But also just the way
Still
that Ron,
alive, by the way, 91 years old.
oh wow,
Yeah.
that's fantastic, because I know Jack Swigert unfortunately passed away not too long after that whole ordeal. But the other thing about just like the movie making of that is like Ron Howard does it in such this like visceral way that half of it they are like zero gravity, and then the other half they're just really good at miming it, but it blends so well together that every time I watch it, it's one of the few movies where I'm like, is this going to be the time where they don't make it back? Yeah. So I love that. And then Saturday Night Fever, I have absolutely no reason to connect to this movie that is about a bygone era that is otherwise ridiculous. But when people call it that disco movie, it's like it is one of the darkest coming of age, realizing, like self-realization movies I've ever seen. And it ends on a note that's like just so barely hopeful. Like maybe this guy will be all right. Now the sequel just poops all
he greased
over.
himself up, right? Yeah. Hit the gym.
But Saturday Night Fever as a standalone piece is like about finding your place in the world, and like it is such a good movie, but it just gets so overlooked, which bums me out.
Yeah.
But whatever, what can you do?
A few people in the chat guessed mine. It's Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh yeah.
I love that movie. I love Carpenter a lot, but beyond that, I just love. There's so many weird like layers to it. I love the meta of similar to Galaxy Quest, actually. Like, I think the studio was expecting one thing and they were off making their own movie. Like, the studio was expecting like this big blockbuster, like this badass like tentpole action movie from John Carpenter, and meanwhile they're on the set like laughing their asses off and talking about 6 demon bags. Like, I love that. And the fact and the weird meta that they were off to the races against Eddie Murphy's The Golden Child, which had a fairly similar premise. The fact that, damn it, I just lost him. Egg Chen in Big Trouble in Little China plays like a similar character in both of those movies. To me, has always been fun. But then also just, I think Carpenter was really ahead of his time on commenting on how, especially the States, like in the 80s with Victor Wong is his name. I wanted to make sure I put some respect on it because he was fantastic. But I think Carpenter was really ahead of his time commenting on fetishization of like Asian culture and like ninjas and stuff like that, which was so ridiculously over the top huge in the 80s that I think there's some commentary on the ridiculousness of it in Big Trouble in Little China. Kurt Russell's phenomenal in it. And subverting the trope of making him just a dumb blowhard while his buddy is doing all the work and carrying everything. Kim Cattrall's fantastic in it. There's so many phenomenal lines. I love all the practical effects. I love that even the fights are ridiculous. I think every time the studio had expectations of them, they were like, what if we don't? And I just think it's super, super fun. You know, even like the last big, what would be a studio's expectations of like big, major final boss fights.
Yeah.
One of them's a video game fight where they just go at each other until their avatars like blow up. And then one of them is a guy shoots too much lightning and then a ceiling falls on him. Like it's great.
Whatever. Wasn't The Rock supposed to remake it or sequel?
Yeah, I think it's still attached. Yeah, I think it was supposed to be a remake, and then it was going to be a direct sequel. It's just one of those things where it's so of its time. I do think there are stories you can revisit and like pick back up, you know, like old properties and stuff from the 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s that you can pick back up and remake and dust off and be like, yeah, whatever, it's a new one of these. But I think stuff like RoboCop and Big Trouble in Little China are so specifically of their time and commenting on that time that I don't think you can redo them, or at least they won't mean the same thing.
Yeah.
What's your favorite comedy of all time? Because we know Jaws is your favorite movie.
My favorite comedy of all time. I love Airplane. I really do. I think that is just the quintessential spoof movie of all time.
Yeah.
Shaun of the Dead. I mean, it's like 1B when I ask my favorite movies. 1A is Jaws, 1B is Shaun of the Dead. So I mean, by default, that would be my favorite comedy. I think that Network is its own kind of comedy. It's a dark comedy. Also frighteningly prescient. But I love that movie. Trying to think other comedies specific. Ghostbusters, Back to the Future. I mean, keystones of my childhood growing up. I love both of those. Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles and the producers. All of the, particularly the 60s and 70s output of Mel Brooks. I love all those movies.
Do you have any like you against the world kind of movies where people are like, why do you love that?
Venom.
Well, Venom is one of them. I don't love it. I don't love Venom, but I do.
Venom. Demo's Venom. Bye, everybody. That's the show.
I do appreciate Venom. Yeah. No, that's definitely one where it's just like I can't explain it either.
Yeah,
I see all the reasons
Just
why I
something
should
clicked,
hate
sure.
it, but I don't. I have a fondness for terrible horror sequels. Particularly Nightmare on Elm Street films.
What's your favorite one?
Of the bad ones or of the good ones?
Both.
My favorite good Nightmare on Elm Street sequel is either Nightmare on Elm Street 3 or New Nightmare. They're both fantastic movies. My favorite bad Nightmare on Elm Street sequel is Freddy's Dead.
Is this the one with Roseanne?
Yes. And there's like a video game section. Yeah.
What's the one with the pizzas or the heads on the pizzas?
That, I believe, is 4.
That's my favorite.
I think that's 4. I could be wrong.
And the
but
time
I think
loop?
That's 4. Yeah, I think that's Nightmare on Elm Street 4. I'm almost sure, but it could be 5.
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
No Hands, No Problem asked, we'll close out on this one. This is a good one.
No hands, no problem.
No hands, no problem.
Shreks.
He says, what are your hidden talents? For example, we know that Dan is great at impressions. You really are. I like watching you discover that you have one, too, in real time. That's always really fun. And Spencer has a killer Russell Brand impression. But what about the other screen junkies? I, for example, can flex my ears. What are your hidden talents, Billy?
I don't know.
What's the weird stuff you do that nobody else does?
I mean, that's a different question than what was asked.
That's true.
His office.
What? Oh, you are a hell of an interior decorator.
Interior decoration.
You know what's crazy is that you all think that, like, oh my God, he got here and decorated. It's like I had a whole day Friday last week with nothing to do but set my area up. Like if you had,
well, you did. No, there's a nice balance to everything. It's very feng shui.
my office looks like a Chili's or TGI Fridays with just
which is
pictures.
There are people that's their job. It's their job to go stage a Chili's.
By the way,
you nailed it.
Everything on that wall, it's all eyeballed. I could not find a
level.
A level.
That's why it's so impressive.
It's another hidden talent of yours.
There you go. As blind as I am, I actually am pretty good at, ironically, eyeballing things.
The man that does not need a level. Well done. I can play glycerine on guitar. That's Bush's glycerine.
I play guitar.
That's my
and
one
no one
talent.
knows that, but I feel like we should start a
Oh, I don't play
Spencer's bass.
Hang on.
Exactly.
No. Let's hang on. Pause. I don't play guitar.
Okay.
I can play Glycerine by Bush on guitar.
Okay, so we have one song in our set. Can you play drums?
Well, that's the same one song that all my friends had in their set when I was growing up. So
that was all you needed. When I was a freshman in high school, that's the only song you need to know how to play. Like you sat down and you're like, dun, dun, dun,
I mean, you can crap on Kiss and AC/DC all you want, but you only need to learn 3 chords, and you know most of the catalog for those. You could do a whole cover set.
Look, knowing that one song by Glycerine means one song by Bush means also I probably know all the songs by Bush.
It's true.
And most of Green Day.
Machine Head has a sick guitar part. I will not stand for this.
I will never slander Machine Head. Machine Head, a real good song. Yeah, no, that's a good one. I'm grooving it. Yeah.
Wait, do we have any other musicians that we can start a Screen Junkies band?
Spencer is a bass player. Ryan, what do you do?
I guitar, bass, and sing.
Guitar, bass.
Well, so far we have like multiple.
I play rock band drums.
I'm getting that.
That's pretty close.
If we can find a rock band drum track to play to, then I could do that.
Yep. Max played something.
He can play a little guitar.
Yeah.
Again, we'll just have like a loud chorus of guitars.
When Roth was a teenager, she smoked and judged people. So and I think that's an important part of a band.
Didn't we figure out she went to it was like a POD concert or something? Remember we kept torturing her for like a week, like, what concert was it? What concert was it? It was like something, the most 90s thing. It was like 9 Inch Nails or something. Mm-hmm. No? Do you remember that? I feel like it was you and me that kept bothering her about it.
Probably.
Maybe it was me and Matt.
If we can go out to the extended family, though, Mike Carlson is guitar player. Yep. Mara plays trombone.
I play trombone.
Ska band.
We got a ska band.
Joe was in it. Or Joe was in a ska. Joe was in a ska band.
That was his name in the ska band.
Joe Rule.
Joe Rule.
Hey, Joe, pick it up.
You can do a ska. Pick it up.
I actually think my
feel
face
like
would
Lon has
explode.
probably got to play something
I
weird,
feel like
right?
he could play something.
Yeah.
Classical piano.
Classic piano.
Worst case, Lon is the guy from Mighty Mighty Boss Tones that just dances on stage. I think that'd be amazing.
100%. Yeah.
Lon just dances. I think we did it. Let us know in the comments what this band is called. And I really wish I hadn't made that the call to action, but it is now.
Get your Galaxy
there.
Quest tickets.
Get your
Fandom
Galaxy
events.
Quest tickets. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for hanging out. This was fun.
This was fun.
This
Happy
was a good
Friday.
Happy
Because
Friday.
some days it's just the day after Halloween,
Some days it happens the day before.
and now we're playing.
Now it's back to fan questions.
Now we're playing the graphic after we're done with the segment.
No, Ryan likes to bookend. Like,
Okay.
now you know we're over with fan questions. Dan, will you take us out as Bjork?
Some days Halloween was the day before.
Bye, guys. Have a good weekend.
Yo!